We are here. The weekend has arrived. Welcome to a special Notsam Wrestling Wrestle Palooza preview show. And this Wrestle Palooza show is so fascinating to me because not only is it running on the same day as AEW All Out, but it's the first WWE PLE as part of this ESPN deal. And the first WWE PLE as part of this ESPN deal that we had no idea was coming until 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe. I even less, maybe. I don't even know at this point. Time is moving so quickly. But we've been talking about this on the SiriusXM show that what to me is very interesting is if you go back and you look at all the times WWE have started new streaming services or started with new streaming services, it's always centered around WrestleMania because I think getting people to get on board with whatever streaming service you're going to have your PLEs on from the beginning is really, really important. You can always get new subscribers to come in, and you will get new subscribers to come in. I'm sure as we hit, Survivor Series and War Games, you'll have subscribers coming in because you want to see War Games. I'm sure that once Royal Rumble shows up, there's always that fan base that watches from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, like specialty events like that. It's always going to happen. But in terms of establishing your base on this new service, that first PLE is really, really important. When you go to the WWE Network, the first main PLE that was on the WWE Network was WrestleMania 30. They did an NXT Arrival show just to kind of be a proof of concept, I think, and maybe even test some things out. But for all intents and purposes, the selling point of the WWE Network was every pay-per-view, $9.99, and we're going to start with WrestleMania 30. And then when they switched over to Peacock and they said, look, we're going to need you to take the money that you were putting into WWE Network, and now we want you to put it into Peacock. And it's going to be the same deal. You're going to get the PLEs. And we're going to start with WrestleMania. And it was right, that first kind of major PLE to the deal was WrestleMania. Well, now they're starting with ESPN. And it's not about the library. It's just about PLEs. And I think that's okay because the PLEs have a significant value. And as a business, as a fan, I wish I could just get everything. I wish I could get everything for free. But from a business point of view, I get that they're like, well, our premium live events have a significant value, and we'd like to get that value for them. And so they're going, okay, either sign up with your cable provider, or a lot of cable providers won't work with ESPN right now, YouTube TV being one of them, so pay $30 a month and get all of WWE's PLEs. And you go, okay, well, where are we going to start? Wrestle Palooza. The name is completely, non-branded with WWE. If you're a hardcore ECW fan, you remember from 95 to 2000, there were 4 or 5 Wrestle Paloozas. But after ECW, that name has never been used again. However, what WWE has done is said, look, we're going to start this in September. We're going to create a new PLE just for the start of this streaming deal. But what we're going to do is we're going to load it up. Every single match on this show is a massive, massive match, is in some way, shape, or form, some arguably, some inarguably, a PLE main event worthy match. And every match on this show has potential for stuff to happen. And I think stuff will happen. I think it's going to be a scenario where you're either glad you signed up for ESPN. If you're only signing up for the WWE PLEs, there's a lot of wrestling fans that will be only signing up for the WWE PLEs. And you're going to want to leave 2 groups of wrestling fans on Sunday. Either fans that are happy that they signed up for ESPN, or fans that realize that they have to sign up for ESPN because look at the stuff that's happening on these shows. Maybe my expectations are high, but I feel like doing it that way makes the most sense. And because it makes the most sense, it gets me excited for it because we benefit from it because we're watching the show. So let's go over the matches that are on this show. 5 matches announced as of this recording. You remember the last time I did a preview show, it was for Clash in Paris. And I said, one criticism I have is that it seems like it's like a methodology. 5 matches for PLEs unless they're, the big ones. And I said, maybe a little bit more unpredictability would be good. And then literally hours after that show comes out, they added a 6th match to the PLE. So I'm not saying they won't add any more matches. I'm saying as of now, we got our 5 matches. And they're 5 big matches. We found out on Pat McAfee's show on Thursday that John Cena versus Brock Lesnar is going to open the show. I think that's significant for 2 reasons. Number one, I think that there is a thought that AEW is going to run all out past 7 p.m., which is the start time for Wrestle Palooza. That's what they did for Saturday night's main event. So how do we get people to turn on Wrestle Palooza at 7 p.m.? Start with a massive match. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Also, the way it's being phrased, I think, is important. WWE is hyping up this relationship with ESPN. I think this is a relationship that WWE has wanted for a really long time. And the first match that's going to be on WWE on ESPN is John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. That's massive. That's historic. So what happens in this match? John Cena's got 5 appearances left after this. Now, what makes this fascinating and what makes it great for a show like this is that Brock Lesnar carries with him this aura of, at any point in any match, whether it makes sense to you or not, Brock Lesnar could destroy the guy he's in the ring with. Did it make you feel good when he beat Kofi Kingston in 10 seconds? No, but he's Brock Lesnar. He did it. Did it make you feel good when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker's streak? No, but he did it. When Brock Lesnar went to SummerSlam and just crushed John Cena? No, all those things were uncomfortable, but he did it. And when he came in and took Big E's title on the road to WrestleMania 38, did that? No, but he did it because he's Brock Lesnar. So what I'm saying is, even if we're going like, hey, the story here is John Cena's comeback, still it's Brock. Which means there is a very possible scenario that we start WrestlePalooza newsworthy with Brock Lesnar destroying John Cena. And there is a very real possibility that with 5 appearances left in the WWE as an active wrestler after WrestlePalooza, that 2 more of them at least could be filled up with Brock Lesnar. There's a world where, look, John Cena doesn't have another show until Crown Jewel in Perth. Meaning John Cena is booked for Crown Jewel, but he is not advertised for any of the TV leading to Crown Jewel. So how do we get John Cena from WrestlePalooza to Crown Jewel without any TV appearances? We certainly can't start a new story. Does that mean that Brock Lesnar kills him at WrestlePalooza and he rebuilds until, for 3-4 weeks, and then shows up in Perth, Australia to get his revenge on Brock Lesnar? It's very, very possible, and that could be the story that we see at WrestlePalooza. At the same time, I don't think so. Here's what it could be. It could be Lesnar beats Cena at WrestlePalooza. Cena goes to Perth to fight Lesnar again, and then everything gets settled at War Games in November at Survivor Series with Team Cena versus Team Lesnar. I still think Team Cena versus Team Lesnar is big money for War Games, but at the same time, the other scenario is John Cena beats Brock Lesnar. He escapes within an inch of his life and gets the victory. Brock Lesnar shakes his hand and goes away for a while. John Cena goes to Perth to do a John Cena Open Challenge. AJ Styles answers the Open Challenge. We get a John Cena AJ Styles match. We get a John Cena match at Perth. We didn't need him to do TV leading up to it. And we tell a whole new story going into Survivor Series, whether it's John Cena in War Games or whether it's another match for John Cena. Brock Lesnar return. Here's a scenario I built in my head. John Cena's last match. Gunther returns at some point, whether it's at WrestlePalooza, whether it's at Survivor Series at some point. And John Cena's last match, while it could be against Drew McIntyre, and that's something I'd have advocated for, it could just as easily be against Gunther. Gunther returns and does to John Cena what we thought Brock Lesnar might. Gunther destroys John Cena. And when Gunther comes out and says, I retired Bill Goldberg and John Cena in the same year, I've destroyed all your heroes, I've crushed all your dreams, there's nobody left, that's when Brock Lesnar finally returns. We haven't seen him since WrestlePalooza. And at the end of the year, maybe even January of next, Brock Lesnar returns and we start building to that super fight between Brock Lesnar and Gunther. And it is a super fight now because Brock Lesnar is built in as a killing machine and Gunther becomes a killing machine officially once he retires John Cena. And we actually go, and I think it would be a WrestleMania match with Brock Lesnar as a babyface versus Gunther as a heel. All that said, I've gotten way ahead of ourselves. Just look, it's September, right? I think John Cena wins and we build that scenario. But if John Cena does not win, then I think we're going to War Games with Team Cena versus Team Lesnar after Perth. So, and hey, look, this isn't a prediction show. This is a preview show. So sorry I gave you scenarios for both guys to win. This ain't about betting odds. This is about what could happen at Wrestle Palooza. You have the Usos versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and this match has changed completely since it was first announced. I thought the story of this match was simply going to be a feel-good story about the Usos coming back together. But instead, it's become a completely different story about how the Usos coexist, about where Jey Uso fits in with this family, about where Jimmy Uso fits in with this family, about LA Knight getting screwed, about this babyface versus babyface thing becoming a tease of who's going to turn heel with LA Knight involved. And I would imagine that LA Knight will be somewhere in Indianapolis during this match. But, you know, I think ultimately, the more I think about it, with what's going on with the Usos right now, that this is not about babyface Jey and babyface Jimmy coming back together and giving us one more run, and this is wonderful, which I thought it was at first. Instead, this is a different story. This is a story about who Jey is becoming. This is a story about who Jey is after everything that's happened. The story of Jey is bloodline, finally gets out of it, builds and builds and builds, does the impossible, wins the Royal Rumble, goes to WrestleMania, becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. All of his dreams come true, and what becomes of Jey Uso after all of his dreams have already come true? When Jey Uso is no longer the I think I can little engine that could, but Jey Uso instead is a guy who is looking at himself as somebody who is entitled to be in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. Who is that Jey Uso? And that's the story that's being told right now. And I don't know if that necessarily means that he's a heel. And I don't know that WWE may be testing the waters. Maybe WWE hasn't even fully decided who's going to be a heel here. But I think LA Knight gets involved somehow or other. I think Braun and Braun win the match. And I think Jimmy Uso eats the pin. And I'll tell you why. I think Braun and Braun, when you really look at it logically, should win this match because they lost to Roman and Jey at SummerSlam. So you can't keep building these guys as a threat if every time they get to a big match, they end up losing. So I think they need to win. I think that LA Knight costing Jey and Jimmy the match in some way, shape, or form, whether he means to or not. And I think that the story of this is there's a lot of accidental stuff happening. You know, I think that LA Knight maybe goes out there with one intention, something happens, Jimmy ends up eating a pin. So maybe now Jimmy has a problem with LA Knight where he did not before. But either way, I think the Usos lose, and I think that fight with LA Knight happens. And then we get to see who the fans are going to accept as a heel and who they're going to accept as a babyface. I don't think this is a babyface versus babyface scenario. I think the fans make a choice. Do we want to cheer LA Knight or do we want to cheer Jey Uso? And that's going to be nuts to see work itself out because those are two of the most popular baby faces on the roster. But I think the bigger story is going to be that, okay, you have Braun and Braun getting their victory back from SummerSlam. Okay, you have LA Knight and Jey Uso and that being pushed forward because it's his fault that they lost. But in reality, what you've got under the surface, what the longer term, what the bigger story is that at SummerSlam, when it was Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso won because Jey Uso got the pin. At Wrestle Palooza, when it's Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker versus Jimmy and Jey Uso, Jimmy and Jey Uso lose because Jimmy took the pin, which means Jey got the victory, Jimmy lost, which means you've now set up this thing where there is a logic behind Jey's assertion that he is the guy now. There is this logic that is now wrapped up in this idea that Jey is the one that is putting down the orders. And all of a sudden, this feeling that Jey is turning into a mini Roman Reigns has backup. And what can Jimmy say? Maybe Jimmy does have to show a little bit of humility. Maybe Jimmy does have to start acknowledging Jey a little bit more because Jey is right, because Jey did get that victory where Jimmy did not. And that starts to plant those seeds. And where does Roman fit in with all of this? Maybe Roman comes back and at first, Jey is almost like an apprentice to him. Whereas before he was just a soldier, now he's somebody that Roman considers an equal and is bringing up with him. But maybe Roman is seeing that this power is corrupting Jey Uso, that the championship has corrupted Jey Uso, that Roman Reigns himself has corrupted Jey Uso. Maybe Roman Reigns is seeing that Jey is making the same mistakes that Roman sees them as now, that Roman made at one point. And Roman doesn't like that. And then you get to this place where Roman Reigns is a babyface going, Jey, this isn't the way to do it. And Jey is a heel, finally, going, Roman, this is the way to do it. But again, I'm using this match as a foundation to build us months and months and months. So that's what I mean about this show. So far, both of these two matches, I can easily see a path where they build months of story within the match. Now, they could not. They could both just be a situation where the good guys win and we move on. But, you know, I like to let my mind wander with these matches. You've got Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer. I think there are two versions of this again. I think the Kabuki Warriors got to get involved. I think the equally interesting stories are the Kabuki Warriors get involved and they cost Io Sky the match, or the Kabuki Warriors get involved and they win Io Sky the match, but Io Sky didn't want them to get involved. So the two stories that you're either telling are Stephanie Vaquer is the women's world champion, or Io Sky is the women's world champion and she's moving on to a match with Asuka. And personally, even when I phrase it that way, I think as recently as yesterday, I said I want Stephanie Vaquer to win this match. And realistically, right, it's Rhea Ripley that's got to be up next because Perth is next. And Rhea Ripley getting a women's championship match in Perth only makes sense. But man, I want to see, now that I've and sometimes it's just a matter of saying it out loud, I want to see Asuka versus Io. I want to see Asuka versus Io, and I want it to be a championship rivalry. And if the Kabuki Warriors successfully help Io Sky win that match, I think it turns Stephanie into a bigger babyface. I think it sets Stephanie up for a bigger win down the road. And I think that it starts to plant the seeds of a rivalry between Asuka and Io that could bring the house down. It's going to be exactly what Asuka needs to reinsert herself into that championship scene, which she has not been a part of for a little while now. And I think that that's the type of rivalry that, like, you sit there and go, yeah, like that you get invested in between Asuka and Io Sky. And you've got a clear baby face in Io and a clear heel in Asuka. And, I mean, you could even go to Perth and have Asuka try the same thing and Io gets her away or what. I don't know. But that's how you get away with Rhea leaving without the title. Like, I think that maybe, you know, you could do Io wins at Wrestle Palooza with the Kabuki Warriors' help. She's not happy, but she's not throwing a tantrum. Io wins in Perth. She beats Rhea Ripley because of the Kabuki Warriors' help. Heat upon heat upon heat upon heat. The Kabuki Warriors get in the ring ready to jump Rhea after the match, and that's when Io stops them. And maybe that's the first time Io and Asuka put hands on each other. So what you're doing is you're going to take the heat that the Kabuki Warriors get for costing Rhea the championship, and you're going to give that heat to Asuka and give the pop on the other side of it to Io. So now Australia loves Io because she's defending Rhea Ripley and fighting off the people who just cost their hometown hero the Women's World Championship. And then you can move on to Io Sky versus Asuka. So Io is who I want to win this match, okay? I've got Cena, Braun and Braun, Io. CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. I think this is not a difficult scenario at all. You know, I think that you got two rivalries here, CM Punk and Seth Rollins, AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. I think what you want to do is you want to come out of this match with a path for AJ Lee. Like, this is the reintroduction of AJ Lee. This is the big homecoming celebration. And after this match, you want to start what will be the first real story of AJ Lee. I think AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch is where you got to go. I think AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch is a massive, massive singles match. And the way that you get there is simple. I think there's no doubt that CM Punk and AJ Lee have to win this match. I think that people are paying a ticket, paying a lot of money for a ticket so that they can cheer CM Punk and AJ Lee, not just when they come out, but when they win the match. I don't think that the Rollins and Becky is the kind of heat that you want, but I don't know. We'll see how it works out. All that said, I think CM Punk and AJ Lee win. I think AJ Lee pins Becky Lynch. I think Seth Rollins doesn't get hurt by it as World Heavyweight Champion. And I think that you move on to an Intercontinental Championship rivalry between AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, especially because the stuff that you thought, like there were fans that thought Bayley was coming back in a story with Becky Lynch. I did not think that. I thought she was coming back for Lyra, and clearly Lyra and Bayley is where it's going. So if you have Lyra and Bayley over here, if you have Io and Asuka over there, I think Rhea is somewhat involved with the Kabuki Warriors because you still haven't really paid off Nikki Bella and Rhea Ripley versus the Kabuki Warriors. But I think AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch is your next big Intercontinental Championship rivalry. And that's what you come off of this match with after AJ Lee pins Becky Lynch, giving CM Punk and AJ Lee the victory. And then the final match is Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. I'm not saying it's the final match that's going on last, but I don't know. It really depends on what the result is. It's either going to be the mixed tag or Cody and Drew going on last. You could argue that the mixed tag should go on last because of all the star power and you want that moment. But you could also argue, if you're taking it seriously, that you're on ESPN and it's a big deal to be on ESPN, and this could be an ESPN audience, at least part of it, maybe you want the championship match to go on last so it feels like you're legitimizing that championship a little bit more. And also, we haven't seen, like, Cody hasn't defended the title. Yeah, because he wasn't at Clash. Cody hasn't defended the title since he won it, I don't think. Yeah, no, because Drew took him out before. Yeah, didn't Drew take him out, like, right after SummerSlam? Cody hasn't defended the title since he won it, I don't think. I think there is a world where Drew McIntyre wins this title still. I think that world is smaller because I didn't realize Cody Rhodes would be off television for the whole time, and that would be a little rough for him. But listen, probably not. If I had to put money on it, I would say Cody Rhodes retains the WWE Championship. If this is just a straight-up match, Cody Rhodes retains the WWE Championship. I want to see Drew McIntyre graduate from this position that he's in now, which is the tippity-top heel that gets baby faces over so they can get ready for that big main event match. And I instead want Drew McIntyre to be that big main event match. I don't know if it happens at Wrestle Palooza, but there is something that I badly want for Drew McIntyre. And Cody Rhodes is the road, no pun intended, but I'll take it to get there. Man, I want to see the final boss one more time. I want to see The Rock back. You say what you want about whether the John Cena heel turn paid off or not, but the final boss is one of the most compelling characters of the modern era. I want to see The Rock return. I want to see him look at Cody Rhodes. I want to see him look at that WWE Championship. And I want Rock to look at Cody and say, Cody, you don't have to have that look of concern on your face. Mama Rhodes doesn't have to worry. The Rock doesn't want your soul. The Rock doesn't want your championship. The Rock's got his own. It's the People's Championship. But The Rock doesn't want you to have that championship either. You see, Cody, The Rock doesn't need your championship because The Rock has a chosen one. And Drew McIntyre is revealed as The Rock's chosen one. Can you imagine? When Drew McIntyre was called the chosen one from the time of his debut in the WWE, and it just didn't pan out because he hadn't proved it, because he wasn't ready for it. And the chosen one ended up flopping, ended up out of the WWE, ended up having to rebuild himself, ended up rebuilding himself into the Drew McIntyre that we now see, who is untouchable when it comes to this thing known as professional wrestling. To go full circle and have the final boss be the one to come out and refer to Drew McIntyre as the chosen one. And we get to live in this world of everything counts. Not only does everything count with the fact that all those years ago, Drew McIntyre was called the chosen one, but We go back to The Rock being on Instagram Live and sharing some tequila with Drew McIntyre. We go back to before that. The Rock gifting that Drew McIntyre was sitting at a dinner table and was gifted a sword from The Rock when he re-signed with WWE. We go back to Drew McIntyre being announced as the real-life face of Project Rock, The Rock's brand, his clothing line, his fitness workout clothing line. Drew McIntyre was announced as the face of that. All these pieces of the puzzle, these real-life connections, lead us to this one place that it couldn't have been more obvious. That Drew McIntyre, still to this day, is the chosen one. He's The Rock's chosen one. And The Rock doesn't have to be with Drew McIntyre every single week. The Rock can just declare this. And Drew McIntyre moves forward as the chosen one. And whether he gets the WWE Championship from Cody Rhodes on that night at Wrestle Palooza, or whether he gets the WWE Championship from Cody Rhodes later on, he gets it as The Rock's chosen one, and he becomes undefeatable that way. That way, not only does Drew McIntyre as WWE Champion become the antithesis of what he was supposed to be when he won the WWE Championship in 2020 in the pandemic, but he becomes a mountain that Cody Rhodes, try as he might, cannot conquer, which is something every great babyface needs, and Cody Rhodes is a great babyface. But we also get to a place where we look at Drew McIntyre and we say, what is the true catalyst? What is the one moment that you can trace back that maybe turned Drew McIntyre into a heel to begin with? And that moment is Solo Sikoa's debut, Roman Reigns defeating Drew McIntyre at the Clash at the Castle in front of Drew's home audience on the night that everybody said this is Drew's moment, and Roman took it from him. Roman Reigns, as a babyface, is going to be suffering from a lack of heels that can match up to Roman Reigns' status. Well, if Drew McIntyre is the chosen one, and Drew McIntyre is this mountain that one cannot climb, he becomes the opponent. He becomes the opponent that we put Roman Reigns in the ring with and go, we don't know if this version of Roman Reigns can beat this version of Drew McIntyre. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. It all starts with Wrestle Palooza. Clearly, I'm very, very excited about it. I'm going down to Indianapolis. I can't wait to be there to watch the show. I am bummed that I won't be able to jump in this studio because I love jumping in this studio after a PLE. But best believe I will have equipment out there. I will be in a hotel room. I'm sure that there will be something siren-worthy. So we shall meet again, I would imagine, after Wrestle Palooza, and then again on Monday for a new episode of Notsam Wrestling. Make sure you're subscribed across all audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, etc. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube at youtube.com/NotSamWrestling. Leave comments. Let me know what you think is going to happen in some of these matches at Wrestle Palooza, and we'll talk again soon.